What's one thing that can instantly make you bond with a total stranger? Story 1. I was on a Tokyo subway going to work. Ratty-looking young guy gets on and starts coughing and sneezing and blowing snot. Not just sick, but making a big point of it. Then he pulls out a sandwich and starts eating it loudly. The people around him all exchanged personal glances of disgust. Even with me, the guy. Very unusual to get personal eye contact with middle-aged Japanese on the subway. Wasn't a bond, but as close as possible in Tokyo. Story 2. An apropos comment. On a particularly cold Colorado morning, a total stranger and I entered a Target store nearly the same time. As she turned to hold the door for me, she questioned, "Where's a hot flash when you need one?" Pretty funny since we both were 50 plus. We instantly formed a camaraderie of misery. Story 3. A good laugh over something unexpected. It's like a moment when you both find something funny at the same time. It breaks the ice and creates an instant connection, making it feel like you've known each other for much longer than a few minutes. Story 4. This happened over 20 years ago. I was out late one night in the rain, truck took a turn poorly, lost control, and hit a poor woman who was crossing the street. Heavy downpour storm. I not only saw the event, but I was also the closest person to the accident. So I put my jacket under her head and moved my umbrella over her face to keep the rain off of her. There was a college local band who also saw everything. One of them ran off to call 911 before cell phones were everywhere, while the rest hung with the woman and I. Cops and EMTs showed up. I don't remember her name, she was walking home after finishing her shift at Jack in the Box, was taken away in an ambulance. The band thanked me for doing what I assumed anyone would have done. And for the next couple of years, whenever a member of that band saw me, he would pull me into his group and brag about me and introduce me to them. Too bad it wasn't a band that became a big hit nationally. They even tried to find a position in their band for me. Too bad I have zero musical ability. Story 5. Animals. I've been living in a motel for a while now, and I made friends with a guy my age that also lives here with his daughter. He works in pest control, and one day he brought back a fucking baby squirrel he caught at a job site. It was in a little metal cage trap, and he set it down on the sidewalk and opened the latch. The squirrel didn't try and run away, it just stayed there. My friend thought it might have eaten some bait and would pass away, unfortunately. I laid down on the sidewalk on my belly, looking into the cage at the cute lil squirrel. He seemed alert and okay. We just watched each other for a while. Eventually, I started doing the whole teeth suck come here noise. I'm not sure what you call it, like PSPSEPs, but not that. He was hesitant at first, but eventually started coming toward me slowly. People that were walking by stopped and looked at me like I was insane until the lil guy finally stepped out of the cage. I moved my hand toward him to pet him, and he recoiled a little bit at first, but stopped. I pet his lil head gently, and he walked toward me a bit more. I picked him up and inspected him. No injuries alert, big chillin' at that moment. I put him against my belly in my hands, sort of cradling him, and showed the onlookers this adorable little floof ball in my hands. Bucket list item achieved. Pet a squirrel. Everyone there was like, "Oh my God, I want to pet him." And so I let them. Everyone came together in a great moment over a baby squirrel. Eventually he was done with our bullshit, climbed up my hoodie, and hid in the actual hood of my hoodie, and just slept there. While I was wearing it and walking around, the fucking cutest shit I've ever seen in my life. I got pics of him in my hoodie after I carefully took it off if anyone wants to see. Just DM me. ETA. Lil dude turned out fine. We ended up giving him to a family friend that works with wildlife. He did not pass away and is still going strong. Story 6. Jail. I was recently arrested. First time in my life, I was driving with an expired license plate tab. Dude was in there, saw the judge and came back to the holding cell and was like, "I don't have $4,000 for bond," and started crying. I patted him on the back and said, "It's gonna be okay, dude." This guy put his head on my shoulder and cried. I just let him get it out. Then they called my name, fingerprinted me, and told me to get out. I felt bad for him. I had anxiety, but he was straight up terrified. I don't know if this considered bonding, but I felt for the dude. Don't go to jail, it sucks. Story 7. Practically anything. I'm very social, only see the best in people, quick to compliment, and a good listener. Must be the Midwest in me. Seems to bother the wife sometimes, though, because I have no idea if someone is hitting on me or has ill intentions. Luckily, she can see through anyone, so that saves me all the time. Story 8. Band t-shirts, especially rockers. I'm lucky enough to be able to wear my t-shirts, jewelry at work, and the amount of conversations I have with people saying top t-shirt and vice versa is amazing. I chatted with a bloke who's easily 80, odd the other day, and it was like we were friends from years past, purely because of music. Amazing kinship amongst us metal heads. Story 9. A guy overheard me telling someone some cooking recipes on the phone, and he stood there and took notes. When I got off the phone, he just started asking me about him and giving me his opinion. Fast forward to 2 years, we opened a restaurant together. Story 10. Caught in a sudden downpour without an umbrella, and you both make a dash for the same small awning at a closed shop. There's nothing like being huddled together, strangers in solidarity against the elements, that forges a silent pact of camaraderie. Story 11. I really admire any person that can own up to something embarrassing in their lives and then laugh about it for a spell. But like a real laugh, like they know they are goofy, not the kind of laugh that exudes bad self-esteem and nervousness. Story 12. Shared annoyance. Nothing like solidarity and being collectively annoyed at your flight being delayed or service being bad, etc. Once you make an annoyed face and look around, someone else will join you and start a convo about how frustrating whatever situation is. Story 13. When I can feel their energy and it's really good energy, you would think there would be more positive people, but there's way more broken people than any other kind. It can make my whole body hurt with their pain. I am an empath. I feel lots of things from people. It's also my kind of BS monitor. I can feel a lie because their energy changes. When I meet someone with honest to goodness, good energy, it's amazing. It's relaxing and calm. I can feel their calm energy, their happy energy. It makes me smile always. Kids have the best energy, sometimes chaotic, but mostly happy. I'm not an energy vampire. I have walls to prevent that. Story 14. Someone who travels likes talking about it, but feels super weird talking about it because they don't want to seem braggy or like it's their entire personality. Really, anyone super down to earth that doesn't need to suck all the air from the room, doesn't take themselves seriously at all, and doesn't want anything from anyone. Basically, someone chill who just wants to talk about anything. Story 15. Unfortunately, smoking. I used to be a smoker, and you can strike up a convo with any smoker in any smoke pit anywhere in the world. Smoking is a filthy habit, and I'm really glad I don't smoke anymore, but it was a great way to meet people. Story 16. I'm a bit unsteady on my pins due to having a tremor, and sometimes I fall down. Any stranger who reaches down to help me up with a smile and then laughs about it with me, I feel a bond with. I might not ever learn their names or meet them again, but I remember every single person who has helped me up, and I consider them friends. Story 17. I'm from Ohio, and I swear to God, no matter where I am, I can always find someone also from Ohio. My husband and I are on a road trip right now heading home from Washington, and we're at a motel in some tiny town in Montana. We park, get out, and he realizes we're parked right next to another Ohioan. It's so funny to me, Loa. Story 18. The security turnstile gates at my workplace are temperamental, and people have to swipe and swipe multiple times to get in. I believe the turnstiles can smell fear. And when I approach the turnstile, I will often find someone grumpily swiping at the turnstile next to me. With total bravado, I will approach the turnstile and say to my struggling neighbor, "You have to believe." And then I swipe through first time. When they next try, with belief, it immediately works for them, and we are now chums. Story 19. One thing that can instantly create a bond with a total stranger is sharing a genuine moment of vulnerability or common experience. Whether it's talking about a shared interest, expressing a heartfelt story, or simply being open about something you both find challenging or inspiring, it can quickly establish a connection. People often feel a strong sense of camaraderie when they realize they're not alone in their thoughts or experiences. Story 20. Alcohol. Once my girlfriend and I were drunk at a concert, and we met two gay guys who, without being asked, took care of us, and we danced all night long with them. After the concert, one guy bonded with me and the other guy bonded with my friend. We talked about life and our dreams lying on the grass. We've been close friends ever since. Story 21. My wife and I were going to a concert in San Francisco, and since we were early, we went walking around a bit beforehand. Down one empty sidewalk coming the other direction was a person dressed in full head-to-fucking-toe black leather horse gear. Horse head, front and rear hooves, tail, bridle, the whole works. Zero exposed skin, just leather and horsehair. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, but they were alone, just going for a canter like that. Another couple was apparently walking behind us. The husband choked on his laughter. I turned around and made wide-eyed eye contact with him, like, "Am I fucking tripping?" And we both lost it. The harder he laughed, the harder we laughed. We might be assholes, but it was one of the strangest goddamn things I've ever seen in person. Story 22. Sadly, I'd say when something really bad happens, like 9/11 or some crazy mass shooting, and I'm not suggesting you're at the scene, but the moment just grabs people's attention when heard on the news or radio, and I feel like people bond to deal with the situation. Shocking events. Story 23. When I went to England for the Carabao Cup final, I was originally ribbed by some Liverpool fans for wearing a half-and-half scarf before they realized I was actually a Liverpool fan and proceeded to show me around the city a little and take me to a bar, and it was potentially the most at home I've felt in my entire life. Never seen any of them before or since, but I'll never forget the kindness and acceptance of everyone in that bar. Sport can be a powerful connector. Story 24. We lady bikers seem to share a sisterhood like none other. You don't see the pissing contest that happens between guys of different biker styles and circles. I meet new friends every year when I join a group for International Female Ride Day and have kept those same friends for years. Story 25 Sports. This past year, I went to a basketball game with an Irish guy who just came to visit. I was a fan of the team already while he was kind of new to the whole thing. Throughout the game, he was asking stuff to which I answered genuinely. It was a really exciting close game, and when the home team made a big play, we just turned to each other and high-fived along with other people who probably didn't know each other beforehand. End of the game, he turned to me and said that he had a great time despite not knowing anything. Never exchanged names or anything, but it was a good fun time. Story 26, Alcohol. Always end up chatting to interesting people at bars. Like last weekend with the Senegali Japanese guy at the karaoke bar, or the week before that with the British lady who thought my cosplay jacket was cool. She then proceeded to trauma dump on me for like an hour. I spent a month traveling around Japan last year, and almost every night was spent bar hopping with strangers. Story 27. As far as simple conversation topics that can easily spring into extended discussion, I've had the best luck with, of all things, anime, Doctor Who, and American football. Pretty much any of these three topics come up with strangers, we end up chatting for 20+ minutes easily. Story 28 years ago, my girlfriend at the time was worried about me meeting her sister because she tended to be extremely standoffish against people she didn't know, and especially men due to trauma. When I first met her, she had just gotten a new tattoo, which I recognized as being from that Death Abyss episode of BoJack Horseman, and she was immediately friendly with me and seemed pretty comfortable around me. So I guess enjoying the same TV shows, games, music, that sort of thing, particularly when it's something kind of obscure, meaningful. Story 29. I once met a lady who spoke at length to me about F1 while I nodded along and wasn't interested at all. She was so enthusiastic. This isn't an answer for me, but I know for that lady, F1. Hope she's found someone like that. She seemed really embarrassed when I made a really bad excuse and got out of there. She was a stranger at a bar. Story 30. I have several chronic illnesses that causes me to hang out in places with other people who have them. Hospitals, cardiology, etc. I was at my cardiologist, sitting cross-legged with my big bottle of electrolytes and sporting my compression socks and leggings. Complete stranger asked me if I have POTS. It was an instant understanding and connection. Story 31 sat next to this lady in the movie theater once. We were both there to see the movie alone. Seemed like she didn't go out much and was sneaking out to enjoy a film. Found myself looking over at the funny or sad or cute bits of the film to find her doing the same. Truly a random bonding moment with a total stranger is watching a film and both experiencing the film in unity. Pretty fun. Never saw her again. Think of her often, though. Great film, too. Story 32. A book I've read that the stranger has a take on. Alternatively, if you have a theory regarding metaphysics or astrophysics, irrespective of how wild it is, we will immediately click. People who think about things and have a studied opinion usually create an immediate kinship with me. Story 33. Food, drink, and music on a week-long trip to Japan. A group of super drunk Japanese businessmen sit across from me at a street yakitori bar. They are drinking more than eating. I am eating more than drinking. One of them buys me a cockscomb yakitori skewer and I thank them and finish it. I offer to buy them a drink and they refuse. They keep buying me the weirdest foods and one finally says in Japanese, "Screw this, I'll get him." He orders me a bowl of natto rice and tokuri of sake. I look him dead in the eye and said, "Watashi ga natto suki de." They all began ribbing him like crazy as I scarfed down the natto and drink the sake. I literally hang with them till like 3 a.m. and I helped them get their boss I to a cab as he could barely stand. Also on a Facebook goth group where I'm known as the old normie goth, since I don't dress goth but love good goth music. Story 34. Both of us being inconvenienced, annoyed by a third complete stranger's behavior. Horrible Karen in line at the checkout? You can bet that there's some quiet camaraderie between everyone else behind her in line. Idiot blasting awful music on Bluetooth speakers at the bus stop while we're just trying to wait for the bus in peace. The rest of us at the stop are instant besties, united in our hatred for Bluetooth Kid. Story 35. A few weeks ago, I was at the grocery store, earbuds in place, absolutely minding my own business when a young girl runs up to me and tried to hug me. I am not into hugging strangers in general, less so when they are running towards me. The girl's parents came around the corner a second later and said she had just taken off when she saw me. Turned out it was because I was wearing a shirt with Gur from Invader Zim on the front. I recalibrated, hugged her back, and thanked her for her loyalty to the Urkin Empire. So that's my thing, apparently. Story 36 was at Walmart, and a tornado hit the town over. So we all sheltered in place at the back of the store, like 50 ppl or so. This AAA tow guy stands next to me, so we get to talking. Watching the radar on our phones, I asked him what's his craziest story of a tow. He goes on to tell about a drugged-up drunk lady, and her BF thought they needed a tow, but were trying to use the wrong key. He tells me that once she figured it out, she quickly drove off without the guy who just disappears somewhere. I asked, well, what happened to the guy? And he said, IDK, he just walked off, I guess. Then I said, bro, must have went on his own side quest. We immediately busted out laughing, all during this scary tornado shelter-in-place event at a Walmart. Restored my faith in humanity. Story 37, hikers nod, cross paths nod, move on. Or when you cross paths and tell each other there's cool wildlife ahead. Once my partner and I came to photograph birds and found some very outgoing owls. A few other people showed up, and we all just smiled at each other and watched. Then a family with small, loud children ruined it. Story 38, getting stuck in an elevator together. When I was about 22 years old, I was working at a law firm in a big downtown tower. I was coming back from lunch and ended up stuck in an elevator for 45 minutes with a 45-year-old man who was an investment banker. We chatted away for 45 minutes and then were rescued. He was such a decent guy. He loved his wife and kids, and we just talked about that, and he also asked about my life and plans, etc. We would see each other from time to time in the lobby and nod at each other. It was nice. Story 39. The book one or the other of us is reading. A few years ago, I was on BART en route to SFO and offered to help another woman struggling with a lot of luggage. She told me she'd packed up and was headed back home after catching her husband cheating. I'd been in San Francisco for a solo trip to celebrate recover from my own divorce from my cheaty, leechy, lazy ex. After we got through security, we hit the bar, drinking Mai Tais, sharing our deepest secrets, building each other up. We hugged as we parted for our respective gates. I still wonder about her and hope she's doing fabulously.